Now talking about the teaching and now talking about the pressure of studying at IGIDR, which has a 2-year master's program spread over 4 semesters, and each semester you need to study at 4 subjects, each of 4 credits, which is making a total of 64 credits over the entire program. Let me tell you that it is something which is you have to be on the get set go motion right from day one, so you cannot afford to miss the classes. So attending classes is very important at IGIDR, and if any unexplained absence is not something which is encouraged or which is being taken very lightly at IGIDR. So you need to be very careful about this. I know at graduation what happens, though I studied in residential college, so there the attendance requirements was very strict. But what happens typically in an undergraduate college, you tend to bunk classes or you tend to skip the classes. Keep this thing in mind. This is something you need to work on when you enter into IGIDR in the master's program. You need to attend the classes regularly. In fact, IGIDR has got the attendance requirement. So at least I believe that there is a 75% attendance requirement. If you are not fulfilling the 75% attendance requirement, chances are very high that you won't be allowed to sit for the final exam. So please be very careful, and you need to start reworking yourself while you are entering into the master's program at IGIDR. And the faculty, they do note the present absence as well as attendance of the students very much, particularly while they are teaching in the class. So you need to be very careful. This is something which I should tell you. Attending the classes on time. So try to be in the class right on time, if not before time. Avoid entering the class after the class has started. So most of the faculty members, they're very much particular, and they may not allow you if you are entering the classes. Let's say if you are late by more than 2 minutes. So this is something which is a norm that has been developed at IGIDR over a period of time, and the teachers, most of the faculty are very much particular about it. So don't annoy the faculty and try to be in the class on time. This is something which is very much required. Now, as far as the course subject requirements are concerned, so you will be finding, as I mentioned earlier, that you have got an end-sem exam at the end of the semester, which happens usually in November in the odd semesters, as well as and towards the end of November, starts from the end of November and goes till first or second week of December in the odd semesters, as well as in the even semesters. It starts from end of April and goes on till the first or second week of May. Fine. Before that, apart from the end semester exam, you also have, during our time, we used to have usually 1 to 2 mid-semester examinations. So this mid-semester examination usually happens, let's say 1.5 months. First mid-sem examination happens around 1.5 months after the beginning of the semester, either in the odd semester or the even semester. And the second mid-sem usually happens 1 month after the first mid-sem. So there is a gap. If a second mid-sem has to happen, it has to happen within 1 month of the first mid-sem. So there is a gap of usually around 1 month, 1.5 months between the first and the second mid-sem. So keep this thing in mind, and depending on the subject and depending on the faculty facilitating the subject, the distribution of the marks is decided from subject to subject. So there is no such hard and fast rule that all the subjects will be following the same distribution of marks between the mid-sem examinations as well as the end-sem examinations. Apart from the mid-sem examination and main-sem examinations, most of the subjects that you will be pursuing will also be having take-home assignments as well as in-class surprise quizzes. So in-class surprise quiz is something which are not counted as part of mid-sem, but they are counted as part of a continuous evaluation framework. So this is more or less the examination pattern as well as the evaluation pattern which we follow, which is being followed at IGIDR. Apart from this, in all the electives as well as in some of the core courses, there is also an additional requirement of writing a term paper which needs to be submitted at the end of the semester. So term paper is something where you apply a particular concept using what you have been taught in that subject, and then you use that concept to solve certain problems or do certain exercises. It can be theoretical or it can be applied work. So this is how the course evaluation structure runs in master's program in IGIDR. Now, as far as the daily grind is concerned, so how many hours do you need to devote to study while you are pursuing the master's course at IGIDR? So as I told you that there are certain things which you need to keep in mind is that you should not be missing the classes, number one. Number two, what has been taught in the class in a particular day, try to study that after getting back to your room on that very same day, because there is a pressure. So you will be having 3 by 4, that is 12 hours of classes per week. So you need to keep this thing in mind. 5-day a week, 12 hours of classes per week. Now, if you understand that for each hour of classes, you need to devote at least 2 hours per hour of class that has been taught to understand that subject. So that means 12 hours of classes you will require at least 24 hours of studying by a student. So that means it makes it 36 hours classes as well as studying. So when you come back from your classes, you need to study. So you will be having 3 hours of classes every day or in a 5-day week. So 3 hours of classes, so you need to study at least 6 hours every day. So 6 to 7 hours is something which you need for a typical student or an average student. Some may require more than that, some may require even less than that, but you can tell that the average hours of study which you need to devote every day is 6 hours. So if you are regular with the studies, there will be no pressure, there will be no such stress, but if you are not doing it, matter of concern, and try working on that as fast as possible once you enter into the master's program. One thing which is very much helpful about this studying process that you have, as I say, that you have got access to the library, and I saw also when I was at IGIDR that students spend a lot of their time in the library because they get access to all the textbooks as well as the journal papers or other databases which they require. So it is, though you can also access any of these materials apart from the textbooks that are stocked in the library from anywhere in the campus, but still it gives a different feeling, or it gives some level of advantage when you are doing that same in the library. And library is, as I said, it is one of the most well-developed library in economics in the country and also in Asia. So as far as studying is concerned, it is something that you cannot skip the classes. There is a pressure, but at the same time it's fun because you pick up new things as you enter in master's program. And as I told you that IGIDR typically follows a US school system. So when they're following US school system, you can be assured that at least for the core courses which you're pursuing, the course structure that is being followed is very much similar to the structure that is being followed in a typical school of economics in US. This is something which you can be pretty sure of. And also the advantage which IGIDR has, now the question which will come, what is the USP of IGIDR? So the USP of IGIDR is something which I have seen and which also my juniors and seniors have seen, is the courses, the quantitative courses. So we have got courses on time series, econometrics, which I said is one of the core courses, and also on other financial economics courses. So these are the USPs of IGIDR. And the courses on econometrics, time series, financial economics are some of the best courses that you can find in this country, and the faculty who are facilitating those courses. And also the supporting facilities in terms of the journal papers, in terms of the analytical platforms, or the sort of platforms which you require while pursuing this subject. So this is a big USP. Apart from this, IGIDR also get access to a lot of databases. Databases like NSSO, which you hear so much about in the newspaper, databases, financial databases like the CMI databases, Prowess, Capital Light. So these very few institutes in the country have got access to such a wide range of databases. So if you'd like to work on your master's thesis, which is one of the options in the fourth semester in exchange for a subject, this is where the advantage of these databases comes into play. So very few places in this country have got access to such wide range of databases, apart from the sort of analytical platforms which you require for working on those databases. So this is an advantage which you have got. Apart from this, IGIDR, if you want to, so the question now comes, what you would like to do post your master's course at IGIDR. So there are two main avenues which you can pursue, which I've seen at IGIDR and which has been the tradition of IGIDR. A typical economic student of IGM, master student of IGIDR is this: either you go for job immediately. So there is a very much well-developed placement process at IGIDR which happens every year after the end of the third semester, that is in mid-December, second week of December, between second and third week of December. So it is a very well-developed process, and the placements at IGIDR are one of the best as far as economics profession in this country is concerned for the master students. So here you can think anywhere about the average salary in the range of at least 10 to 12 lakhs per annum for a typical master student. So this is something which I can tell you. So this is one of the avenues that is before you after you have completed your master's program. The other avenue which is there is to pursue higher studies, whether you like to go for PhD or something similar such programs. So as I've seen and as has been the tradition at IGIDR, students who pass out the master's program at IGIDR, they either enter the PhD program back into IGIDR, or they pursue PhD program from some of the best universities in US and Europe. And sometimes some of the students also go and pursue the PhD program in other eminent institutes of economics in India, such as Jawaharlal University, JNU, that is at CESP, or at CITD, or at ISI Delhi, or in ISI Kolkata. So these are some of the options which are there before you as a master students if you would like to pursue the higher studies after completed your masters. So as far as I am concerned, and as far as like many like me are concerned, getting into IGIDR is something which has been a matter of pride for me and also for a lot of my colleagues and batchmates. And I can assure you that if you are regular and thorough with your study, it will be really functioning at IGIDR. In fact, the experience which you gain at IGIDR during a 2 years stay will help you a lot, and it will help you to change your outlook. It will help you to reform your outlook and a lot of things. The way you look at, and this will be really helpful when you go into the outside world, either as a professional or as a research student. So thank you for listening to me, and I hope you have enjoyed what I've discussed. And I think that this will be really helpful while you are pursuing your master's program at IGIDR. Thank you once again.